I'll go ahead and start things off. So just want to say thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy days and joining us today to talk about analytics. So today's session is on analytics to boost SharePoint and Office 365 adoption and productivity levels. The goal of this presentation is that you will walk away with some key insights and metrics that you can use to further improve your SharePoint or Office 365 portal, and of course, some helpful tips and actions that you can utilize to set your Office 365 improvement plan into motion. So just a little bit of housekeeping. So this webinar is being recorded. If you want to share this with a colleague in the next few days, we'll go ahead and send an email to everyone who signed up with the recording as well. You can also connect with us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @Cardiolog. And if you have any questions, I'll leave some time towards the end of the webinar for any questions that you may have. And you can send your questions through the questions box within the GoToWebinar panel. In regards to the agenda for today's session, we'll start out with a very short introduction. We'll talk a little bit about Intlock and who we are. Then I'll jump into a presentation with the benefits of using analytics for SharePoint, and I'll show you how you can actually, one, gather your data and create meaningful reports, and then two, how you can turn these insights that you collect on your SharePoint portal into action. And again, as I previously mentioned, if you have any questions, we'll be taking some towards the end, so feel free, you can send them at any time, and we'll try to answer those questions at the end of the presentation today. So just a brief introduction about Intlock. We've been around now for about 12 years, since 2005. We're based out of Boston, and over the past 12 years, we've been focused on analytics designed for SharePoint and Office 365. Our flagship solution is Cardiolog Analytics, and it's built specifically for internal platforms, including all versions of SharePoint from 2007 to 2016, as well as SharePoint Online, and of course now Office 365. We can also track third-party tools like Yammer, Citrion, CRM tools, and Salesforce. And our solution is available for both on-prem as well as SaaS-based version, and it's based on Power BI. Our goal is to help our customers constantly improve SharePoint based on how it's being used. So there are three main pillars that we'll talk to our customers about. So the first is monitoring SharePoint. So that's tracking the actual usage within SharePoint. So that's through SharePoint Analytics, Insights, and Usage Reports. The second is engaging users, asking them what their needs are, what their pain points are, and what's not working for them. And then finally, the most important pillar is to enhance. So we want to make sure that we're constantly improving SharePoint based on these pillars. And the idea is to have actionable metrics which allow us to constantly make SharePoint better for the users. So I want to take a moment just to talk about what is the point here? Why are we using SharePoint Office 365 Analytics? And a very common scenario that might resonate with you as well is that stakeholders and administrators from organizations approach us and they want to know very specific facts. So they want to know, how can I determine my adoption levels at each step of a migration process? Can we identify which content is not being accessed? What are most users doing in the portal? Things like, what is the most popular search? And where are my users coming from? They also want to know things like, what is the most popular content? And what are my customers downloading? So we are then able to recommend very tailored metrics and analytics reports to answer these very important business questions, because at the end of the day, without having these vital pieces of information, organizations simply aren't making informed business decisions based on real and actionable data. So with that background, we'll just go ahead, and I really want to just jump right in and show you these analytics as quickly as I can. And just to elaborate a little bit more on why we need analytics when we talk about SharePoint, so the key here is really that you can only manage what you can measure. So only can we really know what's successful in SharePoint and define if the launch was a success, and even measure if people are using it and if adoption is increasing, is by being able to measure what's going on. And that's really the end goal that we help our customers with. So how can we measure the deployment? How can we analyze it? And then how can we help you improve your environment based on what's going on with your real data? And again, making an investment in an intranet or in migration, for example, includes a large amount of resources. So this can be in the form of even budgets for licenses and consultants, as well as human resources that can involve multiple teams, admins, even developers, stakeholders, and even the migration of key business assets. So by leveraging analytics, you can find out whether your portal is actually performing as expected and whether it's really truly providing value to your organization. So the first thing that you can see here on my screen is a usage overview report. So this is our Cardiolog Analytics SaaS solution, which is visualized in Power BI. And what you can see here is our portal hierarchy or tree structure here on the left. So in this example here, we're tracking a SharePoint Online tenant, and we can easily track other tenants, tenants or farms, for example, like SharePoint 2013 or 2016, and that can all be visualized here within this portal tree filter. So for example, if you're going through a migration, this is a great way to drill down into various aspects of each of your farms or tenants to track exactly what's going on during each stage of your migration process. So you can actually track your tenant before, or for example, your SharePoint 2013 farm before you migrate. You can then track your SharePoint Online tenant during a migration and track it as well after to see if your adoption levels are improving and if people are actually migrating to the portal. And as you can see here within SharePoint Online, I have these different sites. So for example, I can select the Intlock, this is just our demo data, for example, but the Intlock community site. And I can even drill down specifically into these lists, and you can see, for example, any kind of subsites, templates, images, and any kind of communities that I have within these lists, as well as calendars and documents. And the idea is that I can select any object or team site or whatever I want and see how that information is dynamic and how it's reflected within my report here as well. So you can filter it by a specific area within SharePoint, and that's a really great feature that you can really drill down into very specific items within your SharePoint portal. And that's just a basic idea of what the portal tree structure looks like and how it's visualized and how you can filter it with our reports. And so now I'm going to kind of switch gears, and we're going to focus on what you see here, which is our content within SharePoint. So here you can see we have all of these different widgets, and what I can actually do by opening up this icon here, for example, I can show you in a little bit more detail. So here you can see I have a list of the most popular items in SharePoint. And this is reflecting the entire SharePoint Online portal. So this is all of your content within SharePoint Online. And we can really focus on what actions we can take. So for example, if you know what are your most popular documents or any kind of most popular content, you may want to link that on your SharePoint homepage. So this guidelines page, for example, this is a really popular item. So you can actually leverage that and put links to that on your homepage. So instead of people wasting time searching for that in the portal, you can quickly make a link to that. And we already know that that's the most popular among your users, so we can infer that that's definitely going to help them. So let's flip that around. And now we're showing all of the inactive content. So this is all of the content that's not being used, whether it's sites, documents, pages, wikis, and more. So this is all of the content within your portal. And this is our unused, or what we would also call, or could be called, orphaned content. So what's the value here? Let's simply get rid of the content that's not being used. So we can A, either delete all of these items. We can B, update them if they're important or outdated, or C, if they're important and we know that they've already been updated, then we can link them to a home page or make it more visible to make sure that it can be accessed by our users. So perhaps you have some content items that are very important to management but are not being viewed, so we can easily place these content items on a home page or even on a particular team site and try to drive more traffic to that particular item. So that's the action that we can take based upon what's most popular and the orphan content. And besides that, we can see a lot more information here. So anything from who owns this content, as you can see here. Oops, I'm a little bit sloppy with the highlighter, but and this is also, you can see the size of the content that can really help you take action. So I can also see, based upon this size, that many of these content pieces are quite small, but some of these are actually really large. So these pieces here, you can tell that they have very little views, but are taking up a huge amount of space in the portal. So if I'm an administrator, I can go in and say, who owns this? And then I can actually just contact this person because I can see who exactly owns this content piece. And I can say, hey, Joe, whoever, whatever his name is, you have 60 days to get rid of this or take action to improve it, or I'm going to get rid of this content. So you may have all of this content here, as you can see, with 0 page views, and now you can simply attack it from the items that are largest, and you also know who owns that content. So that simply helps you take action based on the data that we can provide. And this report is particularly helpful, even in the pre-migration stage, for example. This is a great way to clean up your portal sprawl and really take action on these large content pieces to help you kind of simplify this process and ease your migration process. So let's go back to our report. And at the very top here, we can see we have all of our different content types. So for example, if I'm a farm or a tenant admin and I just want to see sites here, so instead of showing all of the content for the entire portal, I just want to see sites, I can select here. And again, all of this information is dynamic, so now it's showing only the data that is filtered by sites. And again, I can open up this content piece as well and see content that only reflects the sites within my SharePoint portal. I can do the same thing for documents as well. And here I can see, for example, my most popular and least popular documents. And so in relation to that, you can even create a page or a space on your homepage with the top 5 most popular documents, and here they are. So that's very easy action that you can take just to improve your processes and make accessibility to your content easier for your users. So that's a page views table all in one widget. And if you would like to see a trend over time for your content, you can actually see this here behind your page views. And this is this meter that you can see here. And so here you can see this trend of page views over time. So for example, you want to see that there is an increase in usage. For our demo data, unfortunately, there is not an increase, but that is what you would like to see. And so you can get a real overview sense that over time people are contributing content to your portal and that your adoption and productivity levels are increasing. And if you do see a decrease like you see here, this is an indicator that you need to take action, and you can take many of these actions that I suggested before to try to improve your page views and improve the content in your portal. And within this chart here, you can see your page views data as well for SharePoint Online. So you can drill down here into your SharePoint Online tenant, and you can actually drill down just one level lower, and you can see here your team sites and your community and more. So right away, I get this instant look at these areas within SharePoint Online of what's most active. And again, this is just a basic usage report. So this is really just to kind of give you a broad overview of what's going on in my portal, and it's just a really easily consumable report to visualize what's going on. And right away, I can tell you that this team site is indeed most popular. And so the most action is taking place here. And this is where we can spend the most time investigating and has more potential for improvement, perhaps, and for taking action. And so here I can drill down again into our team site and see which lists, for example, are most active. And you can drill down from our lists to microfeeds and to individual items as well. So that's our content and all the actions that we can take and the value that we can take from these powerful metrics. So now we're going to transition and add our second piece of our usage overview, which is our adoption piece. So we've added some really nice adoption metrics here. And here we can see our attributes, and these are our departments. And so if we hover over our departments, as I'm doing here, for example, we can see what exactly this number 7 means. And it means that number 7 is the number of visits per user. So in this case, for the finance department, people visit SharePoint about 7 times versus these lower departments here who aren't visiting SharePoint as often. And so this is just a really easy way to visualize what's going on with the departments within SharePoint and where we can take action. So now that we know all of this information, we may want to come back here and give these lagging departments more training because we see that they're using SharePoint less than our top groups. Another piece of important insights that we can take from this simple report is maybe I found out, for example, here that marketing is not a very active group, but there may be some people within the marketing group who are very active and some who are not. So let's drill down into our marketing group. And here I can see the actual people in the marketing group. So some here you can see are using it 8 or 9 times as an average. And here at the bottom, we can see people who are using it only a few times. And these people definitely need more training, so we can see that their adoption levels are increasing within the portal. So instead of giving everyone in the marketing group training, we can really focus in on training only those people within the marketing group as a whole who need that extra assistance based upon data on their usage of SharePoint. And I think we can all agree that training can be particularly expensive, so using these insights can be really helpful in determining where we should spend our resources and how we can save money on training. So that's just another place where we can show value and see who are the people who don't use SharePoint very often and how we can save resources on training. So let's drill back up for a moment into our groups. So here I want to show you, this is really the most interesting part of all of this. And this is my favorite part of the reports that we have here, and that's the connection. So if I were to ask people, what are the people in the finance group doing, I can click on finance, and now all of these graphs and meters show data only from the finance group. So I can open all of these metrics again, for example, our most popular content that I showed you previously, and that shows you data just for that group of finance users. So if they have their own site within SharePoint, I can actually use this content and place it on their site. And this is a really great way to take action for each group based on what they're interested in. So again, I can either drill down to see here the users within the finance group, as I showed you before, or I can simply click on the filter to see the content that's most popular within that group as well. So it's really nice to see the connection between these two reports and to really see how our content and our users are actually interacting with each other to see adoption on a full scale. The last thing I want to just go over quickly is our total number of active users. So again, if I click on our IT group, we can see that out of the total number of IT users, which is 979, only 63 are using SharePoint. That's not a great number. So we can definitely just have this quick glance to see our active versus inactive users within SharePoint based on this pie chart here, and really get a glimpse of understanding who's active and who's not based upon our groups. And I want to show you one other quick item. So we can actually, again, drill down into our finance group. And here I can actually, again, see all of our individual users as I showed you previously. So if I select an individual user, I can again then filter content and show content that that individual user is actually interacting with as well. So once I drill down into our users, I can see, for example, our user Rose was viewing items like site collection documents and the number of lists that she was viewing as well. And this is simply, again, to show you how easy it is to drill down on both our users and our groups. So that was our content and our adoption metrics. And now I want to add our third piece. And our third piece is search. And search is a huge piece of SharePoint. It's a huge piece of completing the SharePoint puzzle. And it's really important to understand what people are searching for, and it can really tell you a lot of what kind of struggles people are having within SharePoint and what their needs are. So with search here, we have our top search phrases that you can see here, and we also have at the very top our successful versus failed search for each term. And I can click on each term to find out that particular successful rate of that term, or successful versus failed rate of that term. And I can see which departments are searching for that content the most and then leverage that content to those sites for those groups because I know what they're searching for and what they're interested in. I can also find out what the sales team is searching for. So for example, you can select here on our sales team. And here you can see, again, this information is dynamic. So we can see that the sales team was searching for benefits the most. And I can then understand that I should which pieces of content I should surface and which are relevant to that particular department on SharePoint. And again, I can place links on their team sites and really enhance their user experience and make everything more seamless for these particular groups. I can also click on my failed searches to find out which of these terms are having the most challenges with. So for example, if I click here, again, the information is dynamic, and failed search is one that retrieves 0 results. So I searched for holidays in the calendar, and all of the results maybe weren't relevant, so I went and searched again, and the idea there is that people are wasting time and they can't find what they're looking for. So once you know what they're looking for, you can actually surface it and save them a lot of time. So you may need to look more in depth into your search schema or your queries in order to improve them as well. So again, you can select here, you can select your benefits and see your failed searches were 2,547, which was about 49%. And so you can see there are a number of ways in which you can improve that as well. And again, you can also filter by date range here at the top, so you can easily filter here. So for example, if I want to filter by quarter, I can filter like so. And again, all of the information is dynamic and will reflect only data from that quarter. And as I mentioned before, you can filter by content item as well. So that's just a general overview of our basic usage reports in Cardiolog Analytics SaaS. And this really just gives you those important pieces of the puzzle to really understand what your content levels look like, what your adoption levels look like, what your users and your groups are doing in the portal, where their challenges are and where their pain points are, and the third piece, what they're searching for. We also have a number of extended reports, so more in-depth reports. I won't go into too much detail into those today, but for example, if you're really interested in understanding what your visitor engagement is, for example, we can show you an overview report of your visitor engagement. And we have a number of reports within the category of visitor engagement that will give you deeper insights and understanding into your portal usage. So for example, here you can see we have a common navigation report as well as an exit pages report. And we're constantly adding new reports. And the idea when we created these report categories was that they were based on challenges that our customers experienced within SharePoint. So we worked a lot with our customers when we established our product to really understand where their pain points are, where their challenges were, and then we worked together and came up with these important metrics to hopefully help them overcome these challenges. And again, if you have any interest in seeing any of these reports in more detail, we would be happy to offer a personal demonstration for you and your team, and it can be tailored to your particular portal, and we can really help you understand how analytics can help your organization. So for now, I'm going to transition to our collaboration tool, and this is a new tool that we're offering with Cardiolog Analytics SaaS, and it's called Cardiolog Engage. And I just want to show you how easy it is to target your users. So we talked a lot about gathering all these insights and collecting all this data and visualizing it, and we talked about the actions that you can take. And now I really want to show you how you can engage with your users and take these insights and put them into action. So this is just our general Cardiolog Engage campaigns page. So let's go ahead and start a new campaign. So for example, you can ask your users if they found what they're looking for on a particular site or even across the portal in general. So you can simply click, and from here you can decide who exactly you would like to target. So we have a lot of pre-made campaign goals that we thought a lot about to come up, again, based on these challenges that our customers face in the portal. So things like notifying people about a change on a page, promoting a particular page, getting feedback from our users, so asking people if they found what they were looking for, asking if a page was useful, or asking if there was anything we should improve. We also came up with some predetermined topics like making sure people complete a specific task or pushing people to complete a specific goal in the portal. And we also thought about things like getting people to start using a new feature or getting people to engage with the site more. So there's a number of different campaign goals that you can select, or you can also make your own custom ones as well. So for example, let's select notify people about a change on a page. And here you can actually target any kind of user in the portal. So it can be your new users that we called our newbies here. We can target our inactive users, so people who didn't perform an action ever in the portal. We can target our engaged users, so people who did not see or interact with a message. We can target everyone. We can target particular groups or segments, or we can create our own groups as well. And so for our purposes today, let's go ahead and target everyone. And that'll actually reflect here what the actual number is of everyone as well. So that's just a nice feature. So we'll go to, now we'll select a channel. So you can actually send them a text message, a notification, an email, a chat, or even an in-app message. And that can be in the form of a pop-up or even a full screen. And there's a number of different customizations that you can play with. So for example, here you can see we can place it only on the left side of the screen. We can place it as a yellow note. Oops. We can place a tooltip here. So the options are really, really extensive. So for our purposes, let's go ahead and choose a pop-up. And then we can go in and customize our text. So for example, we can say, let us know how we're doing. And are you able to find things you need? And again, the options here are pretty much endless. So you can select your frequency. So you can show messages once per user, show message once per session, for example. Again, you can choose different type of message types. You can also choose your background colors, your corners. You can really mix and match with your UX here. So that's really, really nice. And you can select your call to action. So it can be an RSVP, a rating, collect an email, a button, and so forth. And you can also have a call to action link, which is a really great way to direct any of your users to an intended site. So for example, you can redirect them to an HR site. And again, we can play around with the color schemes as well. That's a fun part. And then finally, you can select a trigger. And you have the option of enacting it immediately. You can schedule it during a specific time and date to run the campaign. You can trigger it to run the campaign based on specific user behavior. You can also have a web request, so triggering it from an external service such as IFTTT or Zapier. And you can also integrate smart timing. And then once in place, let's go ahead and launch our campaign. You can easily communicate your announcements, ads, alerts, links, all within a matter of minutes. And this is very useful for collecting information from users on how their user experience is and what challenges and roadblocks they're facing. Many times, and especially particularly, I know I said this a lot, but during migrations, organizations fail to collect real human insights. And this is a really powerful tool that can be automated to suit those needs and really improve those internal processes. So that's about all the time I have for our session today. Thanks to everyone who has stuck around. So I'm going to shift now to our Q&A. So if you have any questions, please submit them into the questions box, and I'll try to get to most of them. If I don't get to your question, don't worry. We will be answering questions via email after the session. So we'll be happy to answer any question you send. And if you don't have a question now, but maybe think of a question later, you can always send a question to info@intlock.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions about the product or any questions about analytics for SharePoint in general. And I do want to say that you can visit us at www.intlock.com. And again, you can join our readers at blog.intlock.com. And you can also tweet us at @Cardiolog. Okay, so I see we have a few questions. That's great. So I do see a question from Rob. Thanks for asking. So he's asking, is Cardiolog Analytics offered as a SaaS option? So what I showed you today is our SaaS solution. And we do also have an on-prem solution as well. And the two main methods that we capture data for our SaaS solution, so we have a JavaScript tracking code, and we also pull information from APIs, including users and groups and user profile attributes. It's hosted in Microsoft Azure servers, and then is finally visualized via Power BI. I see another question asking if popular content can span across all tenants and on-prem implementations. So what I showed you today was just reflecting SharePoint Online data. Of course, that was just our demo data, but our Cardiolog Analytics SaaS solution can definitely pull data across all tenants, as well as any version of SharePoint from 2013 to 2016. So if you have a 2016 deployment or 2013 farm, we can definitely track that, and we can visualize that through a popular content report. I see another question asking if we will share overview materials after the meeting, so something that you can share with other project leads or stakeholders. So again, I mentioned that this is being recorded, and we will be sending the recording out, so you can definitely send the recording out as well as the slides. We do have a number of other resources in case you're interested in learning more about analytics for SharePoint. We have an ebook called Introduction to Analytics for SharePoint, which you can find on our website on the homepage. And we also have an additional ebook on using analytics to ease your migration process, if that's of interest to you as well, along with a number of really helpful items on our website, content items, and our blog as well. We try to share as much information as possible about analytics for SharePoint and Office 365, so I definitely invite you to view those materials. I see another question about what we're able to present on Yammer Analytics. So I can show you I didn't have the chance to show it during the presentation, but I'll show you now. We do have a number of really nice reports for Yammer. So here you can see we have a general Yammer engagement report. You can see who your contributors are within Yammer. You can see who are your participants within Yammer. You can also see your inactive Yammer users as well as your active Yammer users. You can also see our user groups are integrated with Yammer as well on this report, and we drill down into our influential users in Yammer as well. So we offer this report. And here you can see a lot of additional information on what your Yammer users are doing and how they're engaging with each other, as well as popular threads. And again, this is just demo data for our purposes, as well as Yammer groups and our Yammer collaboration. And in the event that you're interested in learning more about our Yammer reports, we'd be happy to set up a demonstration tailored to that as well. And I have a question about, do we have a trial for Cardiolog Analytics SaaS? So we have a 14-day trial for Cardiolog Analytics SaaS, as well as a 30-day trial for our on-prem solution. So I would love to invite all of you to try out our trial, and you can find that on our website as well. Or you can simply just email us at info@intlock.com, and we'd be happy to set that up for you. Okay. And again, I see a question as how are we establishing usage by department? So that's through our usage groups within SharePoint Online. And in our on-prem solution, that is actually through our Active Directory usage groups. So I think that's about all the time that we have today. I did see that there's a few more questions, so I'll be happy to answer them via email. And I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I hope this was helpful for you to understand just a little bit more of what you can do with analytics and how you can improve your SharePoint and or Office 365 portal with advanced analytics. And again, you can try out our free trial at www.intlock.com or reach out to us and we'd be happy to set up a personal demonstration for you and your team as well. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.